the bottom line. You want a war? You're gonna get one.
The cream will rise to the top, oh yeah.
Now you wanna get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Hard work pays off. Dreams come true. Bad times don't last, but bad guys do.
Good morning, everybody out there, and welcome back to another holiday version of the Bottom Line.
Hey, Ed, before we get started, I already noticed something right off the top of the show. You know, it's the first show of the new year, 2025.
Eric's always right thing, are you?
No.
Okay, all right.
It's the first show of the new year, 2025, and as the intro was playing, I noticed the Crew 2024. You know, so we got to apologize to the viewers. You know, we're just already behind. We're a little older, you and I. You much older than me, but we got to get that changed. We got to get it that.
That's unacceptable, right there.
It is. It is.
And you know what? If our quality control crew caught that, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
You haven't started losing your faculties yet.
It happened to pop up, and I'm like, "Ooh, boy, it's 2025 now." But it's only the first show. I'm sure we'll get that corrected at some point in time. So.
Man, hey Henry, thanks for joining.
We can get to the Eric was right later, if you know what I mean. Cheers. Cheers.
So the UFL, we'll start off with them. The UFL has started off
with a bang.
Head and shoulders ahead of the game from last year. They've dropped their schedule this last week. A lot of exciting stuff.
A lot of chatter about it. And
for the first time, we're going to enjoy some Friday night football. Friday Night Lights going on in the spring. So, you know, biggest.
A question I have for you real quick on the Friday night game, I've had some conversations with some guys about it, and I kind of see it twofold. You know, I think it's going to be great for TV. I think it's going to help our ratings that way. But I've also seen a lot of people say, you know, I've got work. I love to tailgate and all those types of things. So, you know, I have zero problem with it. If I'm not at a game, I got something to do on a Friday night and watch it on TV. But, you know, you as the quintessential, you know,
tailgater.
super tailgater. You're not just a tailgater. You are a super tailgater.
I'm a super fan tailgater.
You are without question a super tailgater. You know what? Just real quick, you know, what are your feelings on the Fridays? You have similar?
Well, I don't understand what, you know, there's a lot of people like, I can't take off, you know, I got to work. That's a work day or whatever. And I'm like, that's what vacation and personal days are for.
It's one, you know, for teams, it's maybe one or two home games that you're going to tailgate at.
Can you imagine? You know, usually your games are on Saturday or Sunday. Heaven forbid Sunday, because there's nothing worse than tailgating all day, having a game than having to go back to work the next day.
Right.
Can you imagine a Friday night game? You get to tailgate all day long, Friday night game, and then you still have your whole weekend ahead of you.
And it was just like when we tailgated down at St. Louis's opening game last year. It was great. Saturday, weather was beautiful. Nobody's got to get up early the next day. Perfect. So I can see both sides of it. I'm excited, but I mean, I can understand both sides of it. So
as the league continues to grow, and the bottom line has always been podcasts that anything that we can do to promote the UFL and grow the league, we're going to do it. We're always looking to get credentialed in the UFL cities, and we're always looking to expand our reach and help promote the league in any way we can. We found that there is a podcast starting up in Michigan, and one of the guys in our crew lives in Michigan, and he kept us fully abreast because him and I did a UFL show last year for pretty much the whole season, and he was all Michigan all the time. But we found another podcast starting up in Michigan, and we wanted to bring him on and talk to him a little bit. Let's bring on Lauren.
Hey guys,
welcome,
thanks for
Lauren.
having me.
You bet.
So, already having a Michigan guy in place, we automatically thought, holy cow, if we start having a little affiliation with another podcast that's got another Michigan guy, what's the one thing that you and I always get accused of, Eric? Our show.
Battlehawk homers.
Yeah, we get accused of being Battlehawk homers. So now that the thing would be more like a 2-2 split there.
True.
It'd be kind of hard. We could call them our USFL affiliates.
There you go.
But anyway, let's Lauren, why don't you kind of talk to everybody a little bit about what got you going in the UFL and what your plan is.
So I decided to start my podcast called My Panther Pride, mainly just because I feel like I go to work and I talk everybody's ear off about it. Nobody knew about the Michigan Panthers before I brought them up last year, and I knew nothing about them until 2 weeks before the season when they started selling tickets up here in the market. You know what I'm saying? So it was all pretty fresh to me. And once I seen how affordable it was, I knew I couldn't miss a game because I'm a huge Lions fan, but I can't afford to go to Lions games. Their tickets are crazy right now. Like and I can get my family involved. And that's one thing that's real big for me. Both my boys, they're into sports. My oldest boy, he played football for the first time for his school this year. So it's just a big family experience for me, and I'm trying to grow the market to keep the Panthers at Ford Field. I love that venue. It's nice and close for me. I feel like it's just an untapped market that not a lot of people know about right now. And I think we just need to push the brand and get the name of the Michigan Panthers out there. Like, we're hungry for sports right now. Detroit's doing great with sports.
Well, the biggest thing for us is, this is the first time I've met you. I haven't talked to you or anything like that. But, I mean, the biggest thing for us here, I think all of us at the bottom line is, we're all trying to pull the rope in the same direction. We're all trying to promote the league. We don't ask the UFL, hey, we'll promote your league, but you got to send us money. No, I mean, we're doing this because we're passionate about it. And, for us, it would be awesome if we had somebody from Memphis say, hey, I'd love to come on and, we could help them out, or I'd love, Birmingham or whoever it is. So, when we see somebody like yourself that's fresh and new into it, I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I think these are the types of things that are going to completely help grow the message, completely help grow the brand, and really bring more excitement. I mean, after that first year of the UFL, I think everybody's nerves settled a little bit. I mean, I know there was detractors out there. Not going to be a season 2. Didn't get it done. Didn't work out. Yet here we are. Those people that say, I know I'm right. There's no season 2. Guess what? We're going to have a season 2. And if
And
we
they're
continue
talking
to
about
grow
season 3 and season 4 with expansion.
yes, adding teams and expansion, stuff like that. So, there can be negatives out there. That's fine. That's not what we're about here. We're about promotion. It'd be easy every week for us to come on here, for Ed and I, as we said, to come on here and watch a Battlehawks game as we watch them all and bash the crap out of them. They didn't do this, they didn't do that, but that's not good for the league. I mean, I watch all the games, and to have positives out there to help try to drive this to get more people. Your example in Michigan, it's just huge. And like I said, we will do anything we can to help anybody, try to help expand the footprint of the UFL. And, that's why, like I said, I've never met you until today, but I think I'll do anything I can to help you, because I really do love this league. And I'm just like you.
Yeah.
I talk to people about the UFL. I'm like, you guys are missing good football. You know how many people look at me and go, what is that? I'm like,
I get it.
You just opened up a whole nother can. Now, you got 30 minutes? Because I'm going to take at least 30 minutes of your time telling you why you're missing out on the UFL. So really do appreciate your time and coming on.
So I'm going to give him a chance to comment on the Michigan schedule. I'm going to part the Red Sea here, and I'm going to pull up the Michigan schedule. And I think if I remember right, last year, Michigan had their first 3 games, I believe, were home games.
Yeah. Yep.
And this year, the first 3 out of 4, first 4 out of 6 are home games. So I got to believe there must be something with Ford Field that they have a lot of availability in April, but it kind of starts waning after that. So anyway, looking at your schedule, is there anything that pops out at you as far as
well, those first 4 weeks, like, we got to come out strong. 3 of those 4 games, they're all conference games. So if we want to do anything in the playoffs, we got to come out strong. And I think the Birmingham, that is our rival team. I think last year we cemented a rivalry with them. And I think we at least need to come out of this season splitting that with them. We need to be 1-1. We can't go 0-4 for 2 years.
Yeah, and I would also say, I got to believe that Memphis is going to be improved as a team. Coach Wisenhunt was a quality addition, I think, to their franchise. But
would you agree with this, Lauren? We talked about this ad nauseum. I root for Memphis. Got the Showboats flag right behind me here too. We had numerous conversations. Coach DiFilippo was on our show a couple different times. Was Memphis one of the surprises for you as to how their season went? Because at the beginning of the year, we thought it was going to be Birmingham and Memphis. We really did.
Like I said, I didn't know too much about the league before the season, but I as the season progressed, I jumped in, started watching like around the UFL with all those guys, with Zach and the ref and James Larson. Those guys get real deep into it, and I like how they dissect everything every week. And yeah, they were saying that Memphis was supposed to come out strong, and it was kind of upsetting how they ended their season.
It was, go ahead. Go ahead.
I do agree with you that they have had a lot of good things happen for them so far this offseason. Like you said, they got that new coach. They've signed a couple big defensive names like Boogie Roberts. So,
yeah. So
I think they're going to be a little bit more of a competition this year than they were last year.
So the question I'll put out there to you, as you look at your schedule, if you go by last year, if we just go by last year, you could easily say, I could see 5 wins on your schedule already. If we say, if Houston's like they were and Memphis is like they were, and, I think, Arlington, and you're going to give St. Louis a game, whether you win or not, it's irrelevant. DC, but I could see if we go kind of like the NFL works, for example, we could say, well, Michigan's starting the season off 5-5. What I love about the UFL, and you just alluded to it, is you can't take these teams and say, well, they had a bad season last year and automatically write them off. I think we could all agree that Houston may be one of those teams that we have no idea about.
Oh,
Their
completely.
roster has been completely revamped, and Memphis the same way. So to me, that's an exciting part of the UFL is we have no idea.
I touched on it a little bit in my podcast. I was telling my co-host, I don't think we're ever gonna see like a franchise UFL player because it's so competitive and they're trying to get to that next level, and the rosters are always going to change and they're bringing in younger talent consistently.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, would you agree with that, Ed? Brett?
Yeah, I was telling Brett, before you jumped on, Brett, he was talking about the importance that Michigan this year, more than any other, gets over the hump and is at least able to split with Birmingham. You guys play, Birmingham and Michigan have a week 2 matchup at Ford Field that I wouldn't call it a must win, but when you start 3, your first 4 games at home, just like they had their first 3 at home last year, if they don't start fast, they're in trouble.
Yeah, and they've made like he said, they've made a lot of roster changes in the off season. There's quite a few teams that are 20 players shy of where they need to be. I know a lot of them's waiting on the NFL season to end. There's going to be a lot of practice squad players added. I'm hearing we might not even have a draft this January because that's really what they're waiting for is for the NFL season to end. So I expect a lot of activity on these rosters next week, in the coming couple weeks. Also, I mean, you got to give it to Michigan. They gave Birmingham every bit they wanted in Birmingham for the championship game, and it wasn't looking good for the Stallions for a while. The second half, Birmingham came out and kind of took care of business, but Michigan could have absolutely been in the championship game last year and could have beat San Antonio. They're going to be probably our toughest competition in the USFL conference. But again, Memphis and Houston have so many open roster spots as we're speaking. They're going to probably add quite a bit of talent, including at the quarterback position in the next week or 2.
And there's a contrast there between the 2024 Michigan Panthers and the 2024 Detroit Lions, because if I remember right in that playoff game, Michigan was really sticking it to Birmingham that first half, but they were kicking field goals instead of scoring touchdowns.
Yeah.
And, contrast that with the Detroit Lions this year who can't spell field goal. As we get into our NFL segment, the fact when I assumed he was a Lions fan, so I knew there was going to be an instant rivalry between the two of us. But maybe in the NFL segment, we can have who has the better looking uniform.
It's the Motor City Muscle all day, baby.
Then, not only that, but who has the better number?
Oh, Jake Bates. We're talking about the
We're
UFL.
talking
Yeah, right? It's true. It's true.
That's our poster boy.
Yeah, I got the double dose of Bates in 24 because week 1, St. Louis had the game until Bates kicked, what was it, a 65-yarder?
64.
Yeah.
64, and then he turns around and against the Vikings and puts one through the uprights from, was it 50-some yards or whatever, did it to us again in this year in the NFL. So I've had about all I want to see of Bates. So.
Do you know how I was introduced to Jake Bates? That first weekend, I was turkey hunting in Nebraska.
Shocker.
I was hunting. I get it. I was turkey hunting in Nebraska because the following weekend I was headed down to St. Louis for the opener. I'm sitting in the turkey woods watching the game on my phone, and I had to watch that field goal go through, and I'm just like, is this how the season's going to go?
I was sitting on the 50-yard line in Ford Field on the visitor side, and we had some Michigan fans that sat around us. They were really good, but there was a few that were a little obnoxious. and I think even the other Michigan fans would agree with me. But I sat around and talked UFL with them, and I ended up getting a few sitting behind me to start watching our podcast. And not because I promoted it as Battlehawk Homer's podcast. I promoted it as UFL, and I did have a little interaction with them too. That they, last year they said we really do enjoy the podcast. Because we do every week. We're breaking down all 4 games that are in the UFL and predictions and everything else. So,
and just so Lauren knows, Ed, because I don't want him to ever, come on the show and not be, acutely aware of this. When we were doing our breakdowns and our predictions, who won our UFL season last year?
Oh my God.
So Lauren, here's the deal. Our show, I believe our show was on Tuesday nights, right? Tuesday nights. Yeah. Tuesday nights. So we'd come on, we'd do our breakdown of the previous game, and then we'd give our predictions and breakdown of the upcoming game, right? So on Tuesday, for a Saturday or Sunday game, we're breaking it down and giving our predictions. Ding Dong here is being a coach. He never would join us when it got halfway through the season. He was always coaching, so he could never be on the show. So he would send me his picks, right? He'd send me his picks like on Friday night or Saturday night or whatever after he saw the injury report and all, and then he'd try to say he was this great Swami.
If you
if I had
believe
another 3 or 4 days to make my picks, I'd probably do a better job too.
If you believe that, Lauren, I've got some oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you, because do you think that if he believed that for a minute, that he wouldn't be all over me to get my picks in? I might have gotten away with it 1 week. I was not getting away with it multiple weeks as he's trying to throw out. It's fine. Listen, when you're on top, Lauren, you're going to find when you're on top, there's plenty of people that want to knock you down. I've got broad shoulders. Totally good with it.
Speaking of picks, while we're at it, I'll just put the ticker up on where we're at so far this season.
Let's not.
A 10-0, Brett.
Hey, Brett, I got to say, I'm pretty, and Lauren, I got to tell you, when you see these numbers, if they don't look impressive to you, because we're just picking winners, we don't pick the easy games. We don't pick the games that are 14-point spreads. If it's over a 3-point spread, it's
we try to avoid
unusual.
It. Sometimes it's unavoidable, but we do try to avoid it.
So Brett, at one point this season, was right at 500. In fact, we were really concerned. But if you look at Brett now, he's almost 30 games over 500. So he's kicked it into gear the second half of the season.
Here's the deal. I've got a hard on against Kansas City, and obviously I thought the Jets were going somewhere with Aaron Rodgers. If I can talk them into getting rid of my Jets and Kansas City pick from this season, I'm probably in the lead. But for some reason, they won't let me do that. But back to what they were saying about Eric won the UFL last year. That I can throw in one of my old redneck sayings on that, where the sun always, it'll shine on the dog's ass every once in a while. So that's what happened last season.
We'll see.
I'm taking that title home with me this year.
Good luck. I'll let Lauren make a wager on that. It was pretty brutal. But Lauren, well, I got a quick question. You talked a little bit about at the beginning of the show that what kind of drew you to the UFL and things like that. So now you've decided to take the next step and do the things like we do. I mean, what kind of was that process about? I mean, how did you get to that process? I mean, we know how we got to it, but how did you get to that process?
It was kind of a weird journey. Like a few months ago, somebody in a Discord group asked me if I wanted to jump on their podcast. And I was like, well, I haven't done anything like this before. Let me watch let me see what you're working with. And it was not good. So I had a couple of people at work, why don't you try to do your own thing? And I was like, I don't know, man. I don't want to sit here and watch myself and listen to myself and have to kind of do this thing, it takes a lot of guts. Like, it takes a little bit of courage to kind of come out here and put yourself out there like that.
100%.
And especially when you're trying to start it alone. Once I brought Jesse on, I definitely noticed, like, we've only made 2 videos together, but our videos have gotten longer and longer. And it's just a lot easier to have an organic conversation about something with somebody instead of trying to keep a conversation going with people that aren't there yet.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
But I had a bunch of people tell me, I should start my own thing. So I was like, all right, I'll look into it. And I started putting the word out there about trying to start my own thing through like Lions podcast and stuff like that. Lions Talk Live and Boss Up and Ball Out and Lions Syndicate. All 3 of those guys, Coach Dan, Derek at Lions Syndicate, Kurt Steele, all those guys have been like way, way positive on pushing me to do my thing. They're like, dude, I'm telling you, do it. And I talked to Zach Kyleman, and I was like, I'm thinking about doing my thing for Michigan. He's like, it's an on-tap market right now. Do it. So there was just so much positivity of people pushing me to do it because I feel like I'm such a big fan. I just took the leap, man. I bought myself a laptop, got this mic, downloaded StreamYard, and just started recording myself.
And here you are.
It took quite a few takes to feel a little bit comfortable talking to everybody like this.
Well,
Right.
I tell you what, I have a special appreciation for people that are able to do podcasts that can go solo, because I found for me it's a lot more comfortable niche, like you said, to have one or more co-hosts or whatever where you can bounce ideas off of and have conversations. But when you're by yourself and you got to steer 100% of that podcast, some people are cut out for it, some aren't. It'd take me a while, I think. I don't think I was blessed with that.
And I
Understanding
feel like
how to keep it flowing.
Yeah.
Once I brought Jesse on, I felt like I could let a lot more of my personality shine. I wasn't trying to sit there and be like stiff box trying to remember everything I was trying to say.
Yeah, it's so much easier to interact. We've got me and the fellas. I mean, it's just like 3 or 4 buddies hanging out at a bar, watching the game, talking football, man. It just comes natural at that point.
Yeah, and me and Jesse, we were old teammates from like junior high school. Like, we played tackle football for the first time together. And then I moved to Florida, and we never really talked until about 2 weeks ago when I started the Facebook page and really started getting the ball rolling on this thing.
Well, you picked the right time, man, because, again, from what I gather, there's going to be a lot of movement in the next week or 2 for a lot of rosters, especially Arlington, Memphis, and Houston. There's going to be a lot of roster turnover, a lot of excitement. The competition committee, if they haven't met already, they're meeting this month. And from what I gather, the extra points are probably going to be different. If you recall, in the USFL, I think we had the 1 point where you kicked it, and then you had the 2 point and then the 3 point. Well, last year we adopted the XFL rules where it was just 1 try, 2 try, 3 try, from what the 2, the 5, and the 10. A lot of the coaches, and they mentioned this at the Fan Fest in Birmingham, were not happy with having an 80 or 90-yard drive and only finishing with 6 points. So from what I gather, they are going to do the extra point this year to where you can actually kick it. It'll be a 33-yard try, I'm assuming. And that will be your 1 point. They're still offering the 2 point try and the 3 point try from the 10. That's what I keep hearing. If that has not been nailed down, it will be nailed down this month. Again, it's a strong possibility we might not have a draft this year. I know they've got the championship destination set up. I don't know when that's going to be released. We've heard rumors of DC, and then they couldn't make it work in DC because of the soccer team. It might be in Birmingham. Then I've heard some scuttlebutt it could be in Canton this year. So there's a lot going on. I want to say what camp starts into February. I mean, it'll be here before we know. We're only 80-something days to kick off. So, and I think there's going to be a lot of parity this year. Me and the fellas said that last year, and it didn't really turn out that way. But I really like the new Memphis head coach, and I think the Houston getting back to TDECU Stadium and doing a total roster overhaul like they're going to be doing, and they're going to get a lot of NFL scout team players from what I understand. So there's no telling what's going to happen this season. Birmingham looks loaded. St. Louis looks reloaded. San Antonio's in a good spot. Michigan's in a good spot. I mean, like Ed mentioned, there might be a team or two this year that gets in the playoffs, 5-5, 6-4. I don't think you're going to see any 9-1 records this upcoming season.
My thought process is, and you mentioned it, Brett, if the championship game is in Canton, and we talked about expansion already, I'm going to go out on a limb and say Canton is part of that discussion if that's where the championship game gets moved to.
I keep hearing that, but I do know there's a second team with potential owners that might be in the mix for the IFA in 2026. Now, again, I don't know how much we even need to discuss that. There hasn't been a kickoff set. They haven't played one down. And we all know the UFL is here to stay. Even Moose mentioned, I think an article was published yesterday, and they mentioned in Birmingham, their phone's ringing off the hook now with players trying to get back in the NFL. Agents reaching out, hey, I've got this guy. He just needs some playing time. He's stuck on a practice squad. He needs some film. They need some film. The talent level is going to continue to grow in the UFL, in my opinion, which is going to help the fan bases with more names out there. Like Kellen Mond with San Antonio. I mean, he's from San Antonio. He was a heck of a quarterback at Texas A&M. You can't tell I'm pumped. I'm ready for kickoff. Let's go.
What's your thoughts, Lauren, on Canton?
So there's been a few things I've seen online. I don't know how true it is, just a little bit of speculation zone. But what if they brought back the Sea Dragons and had the championship game out there in Seattle as like, hey, we're kicking off this team in 2026, but we're gonna announce it at their home stadium.
It's possible. I would worry that since there's no West Coast teams out there right now, I don't know what they would be looking like with attendance. But Seattle did a fantastic job in 2020. 2023 or whatever did not really work out all that well out there, which they started bumping the Kraken hockey team, which was brand new that season. And they had a couple Thursday night games. So, but from what I keep hearing, I would be really floored if Seattle's not one of the teams next season. You're correct about that, but they might. At what point are we going to start? I don't know. Are they going to wait till halfway through the season again to say, "Hey, the championship game's at this location"? I wish maybe they would, so people could make plans.
Oh yeah.
Travel plans.
We're trying to lock down our travel plans to get to the championship game.
Yeah.
I need to know the city so I can lock down my Airbnb and everything like that. Like me and Jesse, we plan on going. We're going to take our better halves. So that's a plan.
So we're going to, Lauren, I want to thank you for joining us. Like, again, anything the bottom line can do to help you out with the UFL and, credentials and exposure, we certainly want to do that. We're going to let you go for now, but something tells me when we get to our NFL segment, which will be right around 11:15 area, whatever, we'd sure like to bring you back on so there's at least one Lions fan that can say their piece for the upcoming big game that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I'll leave it open. I'll be watching, and whenever we get back to the NFL segment, I'll hop back on.
Sounds awesome.
Sounds good. We'll see in a bit.
Before we get into college football, let's take a quick break. Again, this is courtesy of the UFL. We'll be right back.
The best of the best is coming together. There's no more what ifs. We're on one league now.
Ready to set it off. I'm number one in the building.
There's no more talk. Put up or shut up. We'll see who the top dogs is now.
Strap it up and line it up.
Joining forces means more power.
Delirium in D.C.
More potential. More reach.
for a chance to play ball, man. A chance to show that you still got it.
The hunger is unreal.
Helmet goes on, nothing else in the world matters.
A league that pushes the envelope and opens the door to living the dream.
I've been an underdog my whole career.
Football is kind of my last resort. If I could just get this one little break.
Brace the moment, man. This is as fun as it gets right here.
United, they stand to stake a claim to springtime for America's favorite game. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
No, we ready. Yes, sir. Ready to run it back.
Hell yeah, I'm ready.
For a new era.
Let's go.
New challenges.
Best in the nation.
A new beginning.
The time is now.
Line it up, Playboy. Let's do it.
I can't wait to see you guys play.
Are you ready?
This is the United Football League.
Just don't blink.
Oh,
Are you ready?
It's it seems like it's around the corner, and then you start doing the math, and it's still 3 months away. So
I know it's just like I mean, I don't want to wish the rest of the college football playoff away or the rest of the NFL season away, but I'm definitely ready. I'm definitely pumped to see, where we're at come the new UFL season. So it's gonna be fun. So
well, that was nice. It was nice seeing. It's nice seeing podcasts like Lauren's going to have that's going to start popping up more and more in this league to promote the UFL. And
it'd be so great to see one everywhere.
Yeah, and I think the UFL needs to reach out to these podcasts because there's nothing like free advertising.
Right.
And we've shown that through all of the podcasts throughout the UFL that promote the league, there's a lot of good stuff happening out there.
Yeah, there's no question about that.
So we had our fourth compadre ready to come on here, and then I don't know what it was, but we said something about Eric in college football, and all of a sudden he disappeared. So I don't know where the hell.
Yeah. Hey, we need to touch on real quick the roster additions this week. You Battlehawks fans, Hakeem Butler's back.
But having said that, again, courtesy of the UFL, St. Louis Battlehawks, get ready.
Okay. Okay. What about the Stallions? We got to mention Sternberger, the man, the myth, the legend. I met him in Canton a couple of years ago. Played his ball at Texas A&M. He is back. Fantastic tight end. I was corresponding with him on X the other night, and he said, "Man, I'm a working man now. I made a business decision." Well, he had already signed the contract. The next day, they announced it. They did a video for him. They, of course, went all over the Stallions groups, and that was pretty cool. And one more, and I know Ed's going to love this. The King of Spring, Luis Perez, is back in Arlington.
Back in Arlington.
The King of Spring.
Let's see if he can deliver on a winning record without having to be traded somewhere to get it.
Ouch.
Ouch. Well, hi, Chad.
He can't catch the ball and he can't play defense, too. Luis Perez can only do what a man can do. You understand?
All I heard last year was the King of Spring as they went 0-1, 0-2, 0-3, 0-4, 0-5. The King of Spring. So I want to see the King of Spring deliver once. So
prove him wrong, Luis. Who is this guy? Who is this poor Bears fan? Bless his heart.
Eric, now that I think about it,
where'd he go?
Now that I think about it, Eric, now would be the perfect time to get our man on the show, the offensive coordinator of the Arlington Renegades, Chuck Long.
I think you're correct.
So maybe I could get in a little one-on-one discussion with Chuck Long concerning Luis Perez.
And Big Game Bob, guys. Big Game Bob. It was never a question, was it? The Big Game Bob Stoops was coming back to Arlington, but he was the one that was posting all over X the other day, the new schedule. So obviously Big Game Bob is back.
I think as we speak, I will send a text out to Chuck Long and see if we can get him.
Absolutely. See if we can get Chuck Long on.
But
anyway, let's get to college football.
Wait, I'll send that text later.
What I want to know is the teams that received the first round bye that were supposed to be the best with those top 4 seeds. How many of those top 4 seeds have advanced past the first round?
A big zero.
So as we've talked about on this show at length all along, something has to be done about that. And, you know, as we played the Crow music for the last couple of weeks because Eric was touting these teams as being more than deserving, that got ousted in the first round with the bye week. Now he wants to come on the show and he wants to start touting how he was right about everything. So
no. But here, let's.
Now wait a minute, Eric. Before you start flapping your gums, do you want to wait till Chad figures things out?
You're trying to give because what you're trying to do without due process is you are trying to set the stage, and you're trying to make it look like it's wrong. But I will tell you, what you just said is that right there.
No, what he said was accurate.
No. What he said was fake news, and I'll tell you why. Because I've been keeping receipts this whole time that I have sat here on the show and listened to you guys say, and this came from Ed, not you, Brett, because you did say that you did not believe Alabama was a deserving playoff team. But you did say, well, I mean, if Alabama, not who? So, and I do remember Ed saying, Arizona State, that game's gonna be a snoozer. Boise State, that game's gonna be a snoozer. Now, we all agreed, and I have it right here as proof because I keep receipts.
Did I reply? When you were talking about Boise State, did I reply?
Here's the breakdown that I gave when I agreed that they should have re-ranked the teams because I did not agree that Boise State was the third best team. I agree with that. I agree that Arizona State was not number 4. However, the statement that I disagreed with the most at length, ad nauseum, was they don't deserve to be there. We should have got these games. We should have got this team in and this team in because they're a blue blood or they're a name. And I said, you know what? If they don't earn it, they don't get in. Now, we look at the first round and we talked about it. And you pointed out, well, I mean, the only game we have to watch is Tennessee and Ohio State. The other games are going to be snoozers. They're going to be unwatchable. And if you could refresh my memory just a little bit, how did that first round game that you called the only game to watch go?
Eric, with all due respect, I think every game Ohio State's going to be involved in is going to be a snoozer. I don't think anybody's going to.
Wait till they crown the Natty before you
decide
whether Ohio State is.
According to you, Tennessee deserved to be there. Arizona State did not deserve to be there. And it took some missed field goals and a targeting call that didn't get called. I can show you clip after clip of clip.
And a favorable defensive pass interference that should have been offensive pass interference.
I watched a replay on that, and you know, I hate to agree with Ed on that one because I like Scadaboo But if it wasn't Scatterboo, they probably would have called an OPI on that.
Definitely slowed down to make contact with the defender, and then he pushed off with his shoulder to get separation.
I agree with Eric on maybe the targeting.
Offensive pass interference, and how they ever tagged that on the defense, I'll never know.
Again, whether they won or lost was irrelevant. They showed they deserved to be there. Not as the number 4. We've all agreed with that. Not as the number 4, but they deserve to be there. When you said they don't deserve to be there, this game's going to be a snoozer. Boise State. What did I say last week?
I thought that was Ed right there.
What did I say last week? If we picked spreads on the show, I would have taken Arizona State and Boise State. And had it not been for a late garbage touchdown by Penn State when Boise State went for it,
you can honestly sit here and tell me
teams
that you thought Boise State deserved to be there.
Well, listen, here, what happened with this playoff, and I think what we're going to see next season, honestly, I do think we're going to see 2 more teams, but what mine and Eric's problem was more than anybody, and I think Chad agreed, and I'm pretty sure you agreed as well, the automatic buys that Arizona State and Boise State got
should not have happened.
That shouldn't have happened, and I think moving forward, it's probably going to be good for the playoffs that was proven. And I think a couple more teams. Look, I always pull for the underdog if my team's not involved. I was pulling for Arizona State. They were close. They were that close.
But it shouldn't have been.
I think it was good for college football. I really do. But they did not deserve a bye. I don't care what the result was with Texas, and neither did Boise State.
And I would agree with that completely.
I think the question about the Texas Sun Devil game is, should Arch Manning be playing quarterback for the Texas Longhorns?
Well, he will be next year. Yeah.
I know, but should he be now?
You're probably correct there. Ewers is a good quarterback, but he did not have a good game. But 4th and 13, Arizona State literally had them on the chopping block. They had them in the guillotine, 4th and 13, and they tipped their hand 30 seconds before the snap that they're coming with an all-out blitz. And their safety got caught staring in the backfield, 4th and 13, and it saved their season. Arizona State had that game won.
Yeah.
Correct.
Mike says Texas should have lost.
Yeah.
I agree. I'll always contend that Texas is pretty much been pretty much top 10, top 5 all year long. But they are the most undisciplined team that I have ever seen at that level that have consistently been able to escape. But again, in that point of the game that defensive pass interference was called, that was a huge part of the game that was a totally bad call. And Eric and I must have went back and forth in the text line for a good half hour because, again, Eric would not admit that I was right and he was wrong.
The reason for that is because
they just don't want to.
You blatantly said there's no way that's targeting. I mean, listen, it's not back in your day. It's not back in my day. I can show you clips.
But here's the deal, Eric.
Guys got smashed less than that, and targeting came in.
Back in my day, in the 70s and 80s, when you had Rod Woodson,
leather helmets,
Ronnie Lott, and stuff like that. Those
Ronnie Lott,
every drive.
Sean Taylor.
And it's like now you've taken another pure part of the game and made it totally referee subjective. Well, and I agree with you. That could have very easily been called targeting at the end of the game. But again, do you want to, at the end of a game that ended up going into overtime, do you want to put a call made by a ref that's going to determine win or loss for a game?
Well, here's the deal.
It was a great non-call. You don't, I mean, look, it's a football, and Eric's right, but at some point, we've got to understand that was a football play and it wasn't malicious. But I'll say this. Wasn't that an SEC crew or a Big 12 crew? If
I'm
that
not sure.
would have been a Pac-12 crew from the year before or the year before, that's targeting all day long. You can't look at somebody in the Pac-12, the old Pac-12, without getting a flag thrown.
I agree with you, Brett. What you just said, you don't want a penalty deciding the game. I understand.
Right.
But to me, the reason that targeting exists is not the same reason pass interference exists. I mean, how many times have we talked about, pass interference in the end zone, and we're like, where is it?
It should have been a non-call.
Pass interference is not a safety call one way or the other. They brought targeting in for a safety. I don't necessarily agree with targeting either.
That's
but
not
the
what
helmet.
It's the appearance of caring about safety.
Right.
Money. That is the appearance of caring about safety.
I get it. Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you, Chair.
It has not stopped those plays because those plays aren't able to be stopped. They will continue to happen because of the speed of the game and because offensive players, no matter how low the defensive player targets them, the offensive player always drops and then they smash.
Well,
so
but
if you want to take this out, then you do exactly what you just said a couple of minutes ago. No more face mask, and you wear a leather helmet, and nobody will fucking use their head.
Right. And I will agree with you there.
It's
but
the stupidest penalty in all of sports.
But
ridiculous, stupidest penalty in all of sports. Targeting. What a joke.
You know why? Because the NFL law.
Now you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts.
Well, this penalty, this rule, whatever you want to call it, is my trigger point because it is stupid.
It's suggestive.
For appearances. When you do crap only for appearances, it makes me mad because it's going to affect zero change.
And I 100% agree with you.
And you've already got so many defensive rules that prevent real defense that no wonder these games end up 49-42 and 40.
I'm a defensive guy.
They already have a rule in place.
Yeah.
It's hitting a defenseless receiver, hitting a defenseless quarterback. Those rules,
roughing the passer,
hitting them low, hitting them high, hitting them with your right leg and not your left leg. You can't do anything as a defender.
I did see one of the smartest plays, and I can't remember what game it was last weekend, but it was a return, and instead of blindside blocking a guy, old school, where he could have ruined the next 5 generations of his family, the blocker just turned his back to the dude, went in
like this
and raised his hands. That's the smartest play I've seen all year.
You know what? That was the kick return during the Alabama game when the 17-year-old kid almost ran it back. Our guy did it, and Ryan Williams was doing this. Don't do it. Don't do it. He could have blindside blocked him, and the guy got right up and did this.
Yeah, I was like,
smartest play Alabama's made all year.
But my question when Chad said, and I agree with you, Chad, I just think they've given 3 levels of advantage to a receiver, and they've taken 3 levels of advantage to it. Because as Ed was talking about, you're a receiver in the NFL. You come across there, and Ronnie Lott is lurking. Lynch is lurking somewhere. That's in your mind. But now, with the way they've done it, and like I said, I don't agree with the targeting call, but I'm saying as it's put out there, and you mentioned it earlier, that receiver, when he did not do this, he didn't lower his head. He simply just turned, and it was face mask to face mask right here.
Face mask to face mask.
But
he didn't use the crown of his helmet.
But what I'm saying is targeting in that scenario, and I've seen plenty of them. I mean, I went back and looked. I just typed up targeting and looked at different targeting calls, and I'm just like, the one that wasn't called in that game, and again, I don't want a game to be decided that way, but was worse than that. So if you have a subjective penalty like that, then why did we have it?
But what are you starting to see on the targeting flags being thrown? that you're seeing defenders that are conscious of the targeting rule that are turning their head when they make the hit, dropping their shoulder to make the hit, doing everything they're supposed to do, and the flag is still coming off for targeting, and they're subjected to being kicked out of the game.
Yep.
Right.
It's like on defense, they show the defender, and they're looking at each other like, what? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in this case,
those plays happen all the time, and they should be reviewable because they're constantly where flags get thrown and for helmet-to-helmet contact, and clearly he lowers his shoulder, cranks his head all the way out of the way, and hits the guy in his shoulder, and the helmets may go tink, but it doesn't matter. The flag is thrown. It's not helmet-to-helmet, and
then if they don't do it, if they don't do targeting, they can turn around and call that hit on a defenseless receiver.
So, yeah, that the hit on a defenseless receiver. I mean, that to me is like I don't even know how you that's even more subjective to me than targeting.
I mean, if you want to even things out for the defense, the easiest thing to put in place to even things out for the defense in the passing game is to actually call pick plays, rub plays, whatever you want to call it. If they're ran all the time, and sure, maybe one or two get called a game, maybe, but there are 30, 40. I mean, if you want to try and even things out, I mean, you guys might not remember, but in the NFL, back in the old times, they took this rule away from the offense. You could catch the ball along the sideline and never touch the ground, and it's a catch because it's a force out.
You see this, and they go like this,
referee decided you would have touched the ground inbounds. If no one had touched you, you get the catch.
Yeah,
that was the most insane rule.
Yeah, I remember that.
But like Ed said about Texas, and I think we all agreed they're one of the most undisciplined teams that you've seen. So when you take that and then you look at that non-targeting call, that Taft, give me the name again, Brett. Is it Taft?
Yeah, Taft.
Taft. Okay. He had every opportunity because he was clearly bearing down on him. He had every opportunity to take this and break him in half. He chose not to. He chose to hit him right here, and because that guy didn't lower his helmet, because I've seen that too.
What he hit him with?
Hit him right here. You can look at it. He hit him right here on the front of his helmet.
It was face to face. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you see, there's more crown from the defensive player directly to his face mask. It's not like this.
That's not the crown.
It is more like this.
That's not the crown.
Look, being a football guy, I'm just glad the penalty wasn't called. It's a football play, and I didn't get one. I wanted Arizona State to win, but not on something like that.
Unless it was Alabama, and you're an Alabama fan, and it happened to. Then,
because the thing of it is, I'm going to tell you what, the worst game in my 45 years was Alabama and Knoxville 2 years ago. I have never seen a game that I really felt like it was purposely one-sided with refs until I watched that game. And I'll go to my grave saying, look, Alabama got screwed by the refs in Knoxville in 2022, and we should have won that game. There was numerous calls that Bama got called for and Tennessee never got called for. The same exact plays. And it was over and over and over.
When that targeting,
you want to see that on a consistent basis, you have Alabama join the Big Ten, and then they go and play a traditional Big Ten school. Every single call will go against you, and there will be no calls against the traditional Big Ten school.
Yeah, Michigan and Ohio State. I agree.
I texted you guys this during that game. I said, when they said last play is under review for targeting, what did I text you guys? Right now, the NCAA is on the phone saying, if you call that targeting, we need Texas, more major market to win. This is not going to be targeting. And for the same exact thing that Chad just said, Can
I make one point though? And this is with all honesty. Can we please on social media quit looking at games like the Duke's Mayonnaise Bowl and the Blue Bonnet Bowl and Take Your Dog to Lunch Bowl and say that a team that loses in one of those games, see, they didn't deserve to be in the college football playoff. See, they didn't deserve. If you can honestly tell me that these players view making it to the college football playoffs on an equal level is playing in the Duke's Mayonnaise Bowl, and if they go out and they lose said bowl that isn't a college football playoff bowl, but they lose that bowl, that automatically that somehow justifies whether they should or shouldn't have been in the college football playoffs. Come on, man.
Man, they're just doing that for clicks. It's just like Colin
You tell
Cowherd.
me that I have a chance to play for the Natty, and I got my hopes up, and at the end of the day, when they do the field and I'm not in it, and you go through that devastation, and they go, oh, by the way, though, you're playing in the Morningside Dentistry Super Mayo Bowl, that they are going to be all pumped and give 100% and play like, oh boy, I'm going to show them we should have been in the national title. You are sadly mistaken.
No, I agree with Ed on this. That's the most ignorant take that these experts have.
Yeah, I can agree with that, but Brett, I'll give you an example. I think it's a team-by-team thing. Was it 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, Georgia was left out?
No. You're talking about Alabama 2 years ago.
Okay, Alabama, yes.
And every one of our players, every one of them, Will Anderson, Bryce Young, they wanted to play and prove that they deserved to be a champ. But keep in mind now, I'm not making no excuses. There's only one Nick Saban. There's only one Bear Bryant. There's only one Bo Schembechler. That team was wired differently than teams are now.
But my argument that is, I think it's more of a team-by-team thing. More than you can't just blanketly say, well, Alabama lost to Michigan. We can't, and maybe we cannot automatically discredit them. But there is teams that when they play those bowl games, for example,
I would say very, very few teams with character these days. And I don't mean to be look, guys, we've all got kids or nieces, nephews. And kids aren't wired like they were back when we were growing up. You had pride in what you did. You know what? We might not be playing for the championship, but you know what? I'm playing you, and I'm going to whip your ass.
Right.
That mentality, it don't exist anymore for the most part. I'll agree with you. There's some out there, but what are you going to do for me? I mean, that's where we're at right now as a society is what can you do for me?
It's the portal. Kids don't want to play because if they're going into the draft, so they don't want to. And then they're registering for the portal, so they're not playing because they're in the portal. Yeah. I mean, there's so many factors that's why I don't think it'll be a big deal someday when all of these bowl games probably disappear. We know them because they don't take anything seriously anymore because of those reasons.
Yeah. So Chad, here's a question since you brought this up, Chad, because I know you've mentioned on the show before. Because you at nauseum like to give me crap about, oh, you want football to be March Madness. So what would you rather see? What would you rather see? All these bowl games disappear and they go to a 16 team like FBS, all the other ones have managed to be able to do, and without trouble, or would you rather see them keep all these bowl games that we talk about that are meaningless and guys are gone and and stick with the 12 or whatever the NCAA decides? To me, I would rather just go with 16 teams. You're in or you're out when your season's over. There is no Duke's Mayonnaise Bowl. There's no Pop-Tart Bowl. There's no whatever, tire retread bowl. I'd rather see that 16-team playoff and go than 12 teams and have all these meaningless bowls where it's like, I mean, for the same reasons that you just illustrated. What do you think?
What do I want to see or what I think is going to happen?
What would you prefer? Like, I would prefer the 16 team, as you call it, March Madness, rather than all these miscellaneous bowls and you already think the 12 team is March Madness.
I think 6 to me is the max and is pushing it. I think anything after that is all theater and ignores the regular season and what the regulars in the pursuit of the regular season. There's no point in it. That's what I would rather see. All these bowl games, I don't mean that like it's a bad thing. It's a good thing for a lot of these schools because they get, 12, 15 extra practices, which all these
makes a difference.
It makes a difference. I know for my team, the Nebraska Cornhuskers, this was big for the program, as sad as that is, because they needed this. They needed a shot in the arm. They needed to get to a bowl game. They needed to win a bowl game. They needed to they need to try and climb that ladder to understand what winning is again, because they have no idea what winning is. Just like the Bears, they'll have no idea what winning is.
Right.
And whatever
I feel the same way.
Take to build towards that is great.
Yeah, I feel the same way for Iowa State when they played Miami. All you heard about was, Cam Ward left at halftime. I'm like, well, we had one of our 1,000-yard receivers standing on the sideline. We had our starting cornerback Porter standing on the sidelines. I mean, to me, that's the same for every team. But that was a huge win for the program. Yep. And I would argue that Iowa State probably feels a little bit better than Arizona State does with the way that they lost their college football playoff game. So
I
for
agree.
The program,
I agree.
Yeah.
For the program, really big win for that was a very big win for the Iowa State program. But guys, what we're missing the point, and you guys always want to say, Brett, you just deal with it. NIL, deal with it. Well, I'm trying to deal with it. But the bowl games, y'all missed the whole point. Bowl games ain't going nowhere, guys. It's money. They ain't gonna walk away. Them bowl games ain't going nowhere.
I can't believe it's that much money. The stands are almost empty.
So
like 30% capacity.
So here's the burning question that we're going to touch on quickly.
Money, because there's no gate money.
There's a lot of TV money, yes, sir.
So here's the burning question we're going to touch on before we go to NFL, because as Brett is getting counseling and all that good stuff, we want to find out once and for all everybody's opinion on who had the better conference this year. Was it the Big Ten or the SEC? Brett, do you want the last hurrah or you want the first hurrah?
No, I'll start it off. I still think the SEC had more quality teams in the Big Ten, but on the top end, the Big Ten was better this year. And look, but I love all these hot takes from some of these goobers online. I mean, you just want to say, can I send you a red nose and some makeup? So every time you get on here and say some stupid shit, it would make sense. Like, yeah, he's a clown. He's already telling Look, Chad remembers this. Back in the day, who was the power conference? It was the Big 12 or the Southwest Conference or whatever. That was king dingling in college football. Then you had the Big Ten for a while that was the head honcho in college football. Then for the last 15 years, I would say, and I don't think anybody can argue this, it's been the SEC. So did all of us really think that the SEC was going to be this good for the next 50 years, or was you going to have kind of a downturn?
Everything's cyclical.
Everything is cyclical. Everything's like a roller coaster. It comes and goes. Now, is the SEC a bad conference? Absolutely not. I still think they've got more quality teams in the Big Ten right now, but I think on the top end, the Big Ten's better. I mean, I don't see anybody touching Ohio State with the mentality they've got now. And I hate to bring this up. We knew who had the highest payroll before the season started, and even Saban brought it up before week 1, and it's Ohio State. So it's going to be a sobering fact that if they win it all the schools know, hey, Ohio State had the highest payroll. So now that everybody's at 20 million, 5 years from now, what's the payroll is going to be? 40 million? 50 million?
Brett, we talked about this. We talked about this ad nauseum on the phone. Here's where I think things are starting to kind of level, because Nick Saban said it. And we use this example. My 5-star D tackle gets hurt. Who do I plug in? Oh, the
Five-star.
four or 5-star D tackle in Florida that was sitting behind waiting his turn. So
Right.
now we still continue to roll. The
Right.
difference for a lot of these SEC teams now that maybe the advantage they had when Saban was there is they don't have that now. So now they deal with the same things that the Iowa States at a different level deal with. When our starters out, like we had our whole linebacking core decimated twice.
Yeah.
You're plugging in guys that maybe aren't, I'll just say, SEC ready,
Man.
and can be exposed like no other time in football.
Hey, look, pull up the 2020 Alabama National Championship roster. Fellas, you want to talk about loaded. And Ohio State was loaded that year. And when we played them in Miami for the national championship, we tinkered with them like a damn cat with a mouse. Alabama was that loaded and that good. I think our second string could have beat Ohio State. We were that deep. And I do think that has how the portal, in my eyes, has leveled the playing field, because so many of these freshmen and sophomores is waiting for the juniors and seniors to graduate or go pro. They're going elsewhere now.
Yes,
they're going to Kansas State and SMU and Iowa State and this school and that school and Notre Dame. And
I also told this to Brett, Chad, Ed. So I think it was 4 days after Iowa State beat Miami in their bowl game, all the Iowa State alumni, we got an email. Guess what the email said? Iowa State is looking to increase their athletics by $20 million, and they were looking for donations. If Iowa State's doing that, everybody is doing that, and they're starting to try to gear themselves to combat exactly what we've talked about on here. Brett, it's 20 million this year. In 5 years, it's 30. In 10 years, it's 50. I mean, schools are trying to get out ahead of this because they see how things are going in college.
So, Chad, I'm going to, Henry asked a question here, and we kind of briefly brought it up.
I see that
in our discussion a little bit ago, but I'm going to give you your crack on Henry's question here. What do you think, guys, about having a 16-team playoff and NIT playoffs just like basketball?
Okay, Henry, if you've been watching the show for very long, and if you haven't, I'll let you know. So this is what my thoughts are and what's going to happen eventually. What's going to happen eventually is that the Big Ten and the SEC will morph in some way, and they will absorb a bunch of teams. And what I think is a possibility of what's going to happen is you're going to have a 2-tier system inside those conferences. And I hate this. I'm not a soccer guy, but from the way I understand it, like in European soccer, they have different levels. And if you don't perform, you drop down to the next level. But you have a chance to play good and work yourself up into the next level. So I think a possibility is that second level team has some sort of playoffs and has a championship. So I think that's very possible. But that's what I think is going to happen. So if the SEC and the Big Ten have 30 teams each, clearly not all of them can play and have a chance for the national title. So they have to shrink that down. So 15 are in this league and 15 are in this league. And if you finish in the top 2 or 3 down here, then you can move up in the top or the low 2 or 3 up above, move down the next year. And so you have a chance to play your way in. However that works, I don't know. I'm not that smart. But I think that's what you see. Do I want there to be a 16-team playoff for the national title? I think I've made that pretty clear in this episode. No, I think it's cheapening the national title. I think it's March Madness. I think it's a joke. I think it cheapens the regular season so that teams that don't really deserve get a chance, and they can get lucky. Just like, St. Joe can get lucky and make a run at the Big 8 or the Final Four and that kind of thing. But is that really deserved, or because they just
can they play
right at the right time?
Can they play out of their mind for one game? Maybe yes. But can they seriously do 3 or 4 wins?
Can Arizona State go 9-3 in the SEC or the Big Ten? maybe.
Here's my
Maybe.
argument, Chad, against what you just said. Right
Make
now
it
we're
quick,
talking
'cause we're
about.
gonna move
I
on.
will, but right now we're talking about Ohio State. We're not going to have it. You don't get any rebuttal because you just talked.
Yep.
Right now we're talking about Ohio State being the team to win. Okay, being the team to win. The way that it was set up before that you're talking about, that it cheapens it. Losing to Oregon early and losing to Michigan late takes Ohio State out of the national championship talk in the past.
Are they?
But
One
yet,
here's okay. I don't get it.
yet, right? But yet, here when we do our picks, I mean, maybe somebody will go with somebody else, but I bet we all four look at Ohio State and say yes. So you can make that argument, and I appreciate and respect your argument. But to me, Ohio State's not even in the talk because they don't get that opportunity.
I am going to take this next question because Mike has a question, and I'm going to put it up, and then I'm going to give my thoughts.
Eric, let's put a pin in that, and we'll talk about it after the show.
Yes, remember that.
Okay. So Mike asks, and I also, do they need to not let players transfer during the playoffs that can crush the top-seeded teams, or it can help a lower team in the bracket to beat teams they didn't see them winning? Again, I think that this year has shown, if nothing else, they have to totally revamp this transfer portal, and they have to totally revamp paying players year to year. I think they need to introduce multiple year contracts to college football so that when you get a freshman comes into town or whatever, you sign him, you wrap him up for 3 years or whatever contract. That's going to eliminate all this opting out crap.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
The transfer portal crap. I think just like the NFL, they need to start doing multi-year contracts. I think that's the only way that you're going to get control of this madness that's going on.
Because if you're doing
you
that,
could have said that without all those curse words. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean,
so let's do this. We are going to take a break, and when we come back, we are going to get into the NFL because
with some special guests.
We have another special guest coming on, and but we need to give our sponsors some love, so we'll be right back. We are back for the NFL segment. And as I said earlier, with the big game, of course, being the game for the number one seed in the NFC happening on the final game of the season, regular season, pitting the fan favorite Minnesota Vikings versus the home team Detroit Lions. We are.
I don't think Chad agrees with that.
You know, since we've got 4 Viking homers here, we're going to bring on a couple guys again. You know, we had Lauren on earlier. We're going to bring his co-host Jesse on as well to give us some slanted Detroit side of this equation. So let's bring Lauren back on. Let's bring Jesse back on. Hey, Jesse.
Hey, guys.
How you doing,
Hey,
fellas?
guys. Thanks for having us.
Jesse, it's nice to meet you for the first time.
I appreciate it.
I'll let
You as
Lauren
well.
do the official introduction of Jesse. So
Yeah, go ahead, Lauren.
I was just going to let him introduce himself. He's got this.
All right.
Co-host of My Panther Pride. First really endeavor. I've been, on the brink of stepping into like podcasting world recently, but finally have a partner in crime, which I'm not sure which side he shows up on, but but yeah, so it's making it a lot easier, smooth transition. Like I said, we're focused on the UFL, but my whole life I've been a Lions fan. So,
well, you can see how difficult it is for us to interact. The show, runs pretty slow, and we really don't like each other, but we really try to make this thing work. So we just pretend sometimes that we like each other because the conversation we have after the show usually lasts almost sometimes as long as the show itself. So.
Oh, I can imagine.
Well,
I was up till midnight talking about this. It does not work the next day.
No, that's me and Lauren talking about.
It looks like Lauren and I are the only ones that's going to be in the official Minnesota Viking Detroit Lions jersey contest. So I'll show
you're going to lose. Detroit, they've done some pretty awesome uniform teams where Minnesota just has that ugly ass purple and coward yellow thing going on.
Well, they do have the whites. I will say
that those white helmets were pretty sick.
They're supposed to be, because the Lions originally had it our traditional uniforms, so we're supposed to do all silver helmets, no logo, and then the all blues. They switched it. Now we're doing our all blacks. And then Minnesota, they changed their Twitter logo to the all white, which they did for the whiteout game. So I think it's going to be all black versus all white to close the season.
I love those all blue helmets with the black lion on it. That was one of the best looking helmets I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Last year they had the good one with the old, like, traditional Lions logo, but this new one, with that black stripe, those are mean looking.
I mean, I don't appreciate, as a Norwegian American, I don't appreciate the crap that Minnesota has done to culturally appropriate, my heritage into that ugly ass thing that they got going on.
We should petition for a change.
Yeah,
Guardians.
I agree. I know. Put it in the thing.
Before we get into Lauren, you and Jesse need to understand. I'm just going to go through real quick. This is some of the stuff that we have had to deal with when it comes to having a Viking fan. Now, prior to the season, we're all thinking the Vikings are 5-6 wins potentially, right? Yeah. So then they start out the season really hot, 5-0, 6-0, whatever. So I'm just going to pop up real quick some of the things that we've had to endure, like this. Here's one. We've had to see this multiple times on the show. Ed had zero problem popping that up. Let's see. Let me go down here. There's so many of them. We've had to go. But
feel free. This is another one, but feel free to join in, you two, if you want.
Well, we've had to endure. Where is it? Man,
I think you guys will agree that that's got to be one of the best.
One of the most obnoxious.
Yeah.
One of the most obnoxious thing. And that I'm so offended. Did you see that caricature of the Viking guy with the blonde?
I come from Danish heritage.
I am
Talk
so
about offended. I am, I'm offended that they use that and they take that character.
Cultural appropriation.
Here's another one, guys. It's about 7 seconds.
What you gonna do today? I got my A game. You got your A game?
A game?
He got his A game.
I mean,
never ends.
Arguably the one of the best receivers in the NFL. Receivers in the NFL.
So you can see the type of abuse we take.
How many Super Bowls did those guys win together?
Yeah. And the Bears, when all else fails.
Okay, shut up, Bears. Shut up there, seven head.
But this is a better depiction of their team this year.
The Bears.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I'll put up a 5.
Listen, we are not having a conversation about Chicago. We're talking about Vikings versus Detroit.
There's not many Chicago conversations being had right now. So
No, like who's the next head coach? Like we always have about every 3 years. So that's the conversation we'll have.
Yeah, it's going to be some stupid nondescript assistant coach from some crappy team,
i.e., Tressman.
So we're gonna let these guys go first.
Oh boy, he's setting you up. Be ready. He's setting you up.
And I'm gonna pull it up because no better guys to start off than these. Here is hot topic question number 1 about the big upcoming game. The Detroit Lions will win if, and I'm gonna let you fill in the blank.
I'm gonna say the Detroit Lions win if. I'm gonna say Jordan Addison is held to under 2 touchdowns. Okay, everybody knows we're going for JJ, but I say that's where the danger is because Addison is a number 1 on a lot of teams. So I'm gonna say if he's held to at least under 2 touchdowns, because it's gonna be a score fest.
Chad gave you a look when you said under 2 touchdowns. With Addison not being the number 1 receiver. But what he's failing to take into account that Detroit used to scoring like 7 touchdowns a game. So when you say less than 2, that's not many.
No.
That wasn't what I was terribly shocked by, but we'll get to my answer.
Well, if you look at Justin Jefferson, I mean, it's hard not to let him get his work in. Period, and then you account that it's against the Lions, so he does well against the Lions. But I don't know if you have the stats up, but if you look at Justin Jefferson's stats at Ford Field, he's like averaging like over 170 yards per game in the last, I think, 6 meetings or something like that. It's crazy. So I know he's going to eat, and we're going to try to stop him, but I think that we have to focus on the second guy.
Lauren, you got anything to add to that?
I would just say that our defense really needs to step it up. Like, I know we have a ton of injuries, and we've been plagued by injuries. And we've had that next man up mentality. But for the last few weeks, we've just been letting teams score on us too much. I mean, I know Curb had those 2 interceptions last week. If our secondary can lock those guys down and really provide some defensive turnovers, we could walk away with this.
So
we could sweep the
NFL. Question for you two. Help me understand Coach Dan Campbell. And I know that Lauren just alluded to the defensive struggles. How much of those defensive struggles do you think plays a big part in the reason why Dan Campbell is so reckless on going for it on 4th down versus that's just him?
I mean, I don't think he would be going for it as much if we didn't have 22 people on IR just from the defense. But I think the most recent games it's weighed a lot because he's gone for it, 6 times, not last game, but the game before, went for it 6 times. Granted, we have like 66% with 2 touchdowns going for it on 4th through the season. But I think no matter what, he's going to be Dan Gamble, if you will. But he, I'd say right now it's about 50-50, but he's going to go for it regardless.
So having said that, Jesse, would you say that you are a Dan Campbell homer when it comes to his decisions? Because I'm a firm believer that he cost him a trip to the Super Bowl last year.
As am I.
With his 4-down play calling. And at the end of the day, do you defend what he does, or you got a little
anxiety
in you as a fan?
I'll start this by saying I flew out for the NFC Championship game. So I was at the stadium as hype as everybody was at halftime. And I do think that Dan Campbell cost us that game and a trip to the Super Bowl. But
hey, can we write that down and send that to Mike? Okay.
Mike,
can we write that down?
Mike Palco, who's a fellow Michiganite like you guys, that you know, the only one that he would argue has a better helmet than the Detroit Lions is the Michigan Panthers, because he basically creamed over the Michigan Panther helmet all last year. I don't think there was one.
They captured the essence of nostalgia.
It's a sharp helmet.
Right.
But so to continue what I was saying, I do think he cost us the game and the trip to the Super Bowl. But I'm all with live by the sword, die by the sword. When fourth down comes up and it always shows it's showing Jake Bates and then Jared Goff runs back on the field. You already assume it's happening, and I'm okay with that because that's.
But what happens? Okay, as we talk about in today's NFL with the salary cap and everything, everyone has a Super Bowl window. What happens if the second year in a row Dan Campbell does the shoot from the hip, go for it on fourth down, and it doesn't work out and it costs you another trip to the Super Bowl? How steadfast is the fan base for Detroit before they start turning on him like a pack of mules?
We're a lethal bunch here. I think Lauren will attest to that. So I think the loud people will definitely be calling for heads as they were 2 years ago. After 6 games. So I think a lot of people would, but I think as an organization, they're all. I mean, from the outside, obviously, I'm not in the organization, but it seems like everybody's in lockstep. So I think that he would be fine, and I would be fine with that. Granted, I would be hurt, but look at all the times that it works out and everybody's like, Dan Campbell, the meme with him with the wheelbarrow carrying his, have you guys seen that one?
Well, yeah, I have. And Jesse, my question would be this, and this is what we've talked about at length on the show, and we do all agree. I understand that Dan Campbell's moxie, people are like, okay, I love the moxie. I love all that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it can get in the way. And when you have a kicker like Jake Bates, I love when you go, it's regular season. I love, it's 4th and 6, hell, we'll go for it. And they, like you said, 2 touchdowns, and they do convert at a 66% rate. But when you get into the playoffs, and I think more so than any other year, and Ed and I think we were talking about it before the show, the thing that he worries about the most, he's like, oh yeah, Minnesota's 14-2, and here we are in the NFC where 3-4 teams, if they end up in the Super Bowl, we could say, yeah, I could see Philly there. Yeah, I could see Detroit there. Yeah, I could see Minnesota there. Yeah, I mean, the margin is so thin. Wouldn't you? I would, as a Bears fan, if my coach did that during the year, but if we're in a huge game like that NFC Championship last year, I would be pulling my hair out and go, just kick the damn ball. Just kick the damn ball. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And that's been
you put points on the board until you don't. I mean, you just keep putting points on the board until you need something more.
Right.
I agree. And I think that just in this last game against San Francisco, we kicked it more times than I thought. There was, I think, two times at least where I said, oh, wow, he's actually kicking the ball right now. So I think that he's learned. And now when the stakes are higher, like you said, we got, 3 teams just from the division going. So I think he kind of learned his lesson. He's still going to lean more than any other coach that way. But I think when push comes to shove, I don't think he's going to make the same mistake. I
love the aggression.
Mm-hmm.
I love the confidence in his offense. What I don't love is the lack of wisdom in which when to do that and when not to do that. That's the thing that concerns me. And I was all behind you guys last year. You had 1 year where I was rooting for and pulling for you, and I wanted you to win. Now I just hope this game this weekend ends up in a tie, and I hope you two just screw each other. And
we get the number 1 seed if we tie.
I don't care. I want it to be a tie. I want it to be a disappointing game. I hate the Vikings with the fiery passion of a burning sun. And I'm going to have to start doing that to you guys because
it's a great number.
You guys are really good, and I fucking hate it. I hate it. Now we're you, and I hate it.
It sucks.
It sucks.
I feel for you, man.
Well, and Lauren, I'll ask you this. Last year I have a different take than Chad, and I'm not going to be dropping any F-bombs, but I was pulling for the Lions last year because I'm like, man, this is a good story, and then Dan Campbell does again what I felt cost you guys the NFC Championship. But now I get, the Lions fans years and years and years of the paper bags and things like that. But now I'm to the point that when, on social media, on the bottom line page and anywhere else that I see it, it's like Lions fans have flipped the switch, and they have all of a sudden become, to me, even though I could never root for Green Bay, they have all of a sudden elevated themselves when you have a discussion to the level of what Green Bay has been for years. And I'm like, pump the brakes a little bit here, boys. Like, so Lauren, I ask you, like, as a Lions fan, do you see some of that? Or maybe you are one of those guys like, hey, we got to get our kicks in when we can. Like, have you noticed some of that where you're like, even you look at some of the stuff Lions fans saying, you're like, ooh, or are you one of those guys out there like, I got to get this in when I can?
I mean, sometimes I feel like you got to get it in when you can, like, especially against you guys, the Vikings or anybody else like that, especially Green Bay, because Green Bay fans are the worst. They're
I think we can all agree on
our
that.
whole panel can agree on that.
Yes.
So, like, we can get our kicks in with Green Bay while we can, but I feel like this is definitely the beginning of something. We have the right people in the front office, and they're making smart decisions with like Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. I'm 100% in on the organization. I believe in what they're doing. I believe in what they're building. And if we can keep going the way we're going, I feel like it's going to be a good run for us for the next few years.
Perfect example of a typical Packer fan. I am the first one and I was literally ready to claw my eyes out last weekend in the fourth quarter when they went into the patented prevent defense. But again, Minnesota up 17 points, whatever it was there. And then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, here they come, right? And they start letting them score. I'm listening to another podcast the following week, and this guy is, hey, pump the brakes on Minnesota. We were one bad call away before halftime of winning that game. And I'm like, dude, I mean, you are that delusional that you thought that game come down to one play when Minnesota had that game in hand until the fourth quarter when they decided all of a sudden they were going to do that stupid prevent defense that never works. I don't understand it. But again, even after they go 0-5 between Detroit, Minnesota, and Philadelphia, even after they go 0-5, I still heard talk show after talk show this week talk about the fact that Green Bay is still
a dangerous team,
biggest dangerous Super Bowl contender of the bunch. And I'm like, what are
I
you
think
guys smoking?
It's Wisconsin got a big problem. It's dairy poisoning. They eat way too much cheese. They can't think straight down there.
Yeah, they can't think straight. They're all bound up.
Well, and the thing of it is, and we talked about this, it was either our last show or the show before, the NFL is always looking for its darlings. I mean, they have Kansas City, and, they have Buffalo to an extent. I think when you watch the shows during the week, they want Baltimore to be there, and things like that. So to me, I feel like one of the biggest teams that hasn't, and Detroit's been a great story with Campbell and everything. I do think that Minnesota is kind of that one team that they look at, and I just don't think they get the flowers that they deserve. I mean, you guys may have looked at it. We looked at it. We had Minnesota at 4, 5, maybe 6 wins at the beginning of the year as we went through their schedule, and now they're 14-2. Ed, my esteemed co-host sitting next to me, he coined the term Sam freaking Darnold because we were doing a live show when all these half-breaking news, as I was seeing, like, there's a potential that Sam Darnold goes to Minnesota. So we're popping this stuff up as the show's going on, and he's just livid. He's like, Sam Darnold, that's so Minnesota. Sam freaking. He was losing his mind live on the podcast.
And then not only that, but when we signed Daniel Jones, then I started in on the Sam freaking Darnold meet Daniel freaking Jones on the island of misfit toys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
their quarterback room looks eerily similar to their mascot. All of them.
But to me, you know, as I look through the landscape of the NFC, I think the one team is the Minnesota that they just kind of like, well, okay, you know, well, okay, you know, Minnesota did this, and but Green Bay, I wouldn't want to play Green Bay. Green Bay, you know, they turned it on last year. Well, I wouldn't. I'm like, they're going to finish third they're going to be 2-4 against the division.
I think definitely they haven't not gotten their flowers. And I think KOC, I mean, the battle, this is deciding, I think, coach of the year, you know, division and number 1 seed. That's what I think, honestly, because
I would agree with you. 100%.
Last year, when all those close wins that, you know, Minnesota was racking up, everybody's like, these, you know, this is their frauds and this, but I mean, look, this year you guys continue. That's just your culture. You're fighting through it.
Yeah.
And then now, as much as I hate it, that locker room celebration, that's a united team. So I think a lot of people didn't expect that with Sam Darnold coming in. And I mean, we didn't even think that would be.
We thought JJ McCarthy. We thought he was going to be a Band-Aid maybe the first couple games, and they're going to put JJ out there. Yeah, they may cruise to 4 or 5 wins, whatever, and that's the way it was going to be.
And I think the media, they're just reluctant to put their foot in their mouth that they, you know, oh, I was wrong, you know. But at this point, it's too late. You have to.
So as they alluded to the being lactose intolerant Packer fans, this is what I posted shortly after the game, and I think that pretty much summed it up right there.
Oh yeah, that's like those cheese graters that are going around. Was anybody watching the Lions Packers game? That guy who was furiously grating cheese on national television.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How do you get a whole block of cheese into the stadium?
Yeah, and I heard after the fact that I think he not only got kicked out of the game, but they can't remember whether they said they took his season tickets away or they did something after that because that cheese grater was considered a weapon.
Oh my word!
Yeah,
I know
he got in all kind of trouble. I thought, how in the hell did he even get in the game with that?
With the coach, he got his season.
The wife had it under her belly like she was pregnant or something.
So let's take so now, is there anybody that has any parting shots on Detroit? And then we're going to go to the second half.
I would just like to add, I think the Detroit Lions win, and we kind of already talked about this. If Dan Campbell doesn't screw it all up, I think they're the better team. Yes, the defense is damaged, but they can score so fast and so creatively. Dan Campbell has got to exercise some wisdom and strength and go for it when it's appropriate and kick the field goal when it's appropriate. And they win the game. I love Jared Goff. I want Jared Goff to shove it right up the Rams' patua for screwing him over the way they did. And I love the Jared Goff story. I just love it. Anyway,
I'm just a firm believer in every time you go on a drive, if you have an opportunity to put points on the board, especially in the first half, you take the points. To me, there's nothing more demoralizing for an offense to be on the field, move the ball into scoring position, and then have to walk off the field with absolutely nothing to show for it.
Momentum killer, everything.
Yeah, everything. Anything you want to say? I think the biggest thing for Detroit this week is, and I think Jesse or Lauren alluded to it, is a defense has to show up, because we talk about Detroit's ability to put points on the board. Minnesota can do the same thing, and clearly their defense is weakened. So, I mean, I think Detroit's defense is going to be the biggest factor in this game. If they show up, Detroit wins. If they don't, they lose. I think it's that simple.
And don't get me wrong. Dan Campbell has done one of the greatest accomplishments of all time. He has totally changed the culture. The Lions are no longer a big losing mentality. Every time they go out there, they believe they're going to win. They believe they deserve to win. That is an accomplishment in and of itself. Is amazing. And that man should never buy his meal in the city of Detroit or the state of Michigan ever again for simply accomplishing that.
Right.
That is unbelievable.
You can feel it around the city. I mean, it's honestly crazy. There's never been. I've been the guy who's wearing Lions stuff, and people are like, "You really wear the Lions? You watch them?" My whole life. And then now everybody has everything everywhere. You know.
I mean,
also,
my two teams are the Bears and the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and losing is so entrenched into our DNA now. I don't know what we do. I don't know how we get out of it. We are just losers to the core, and I don't know how you exercise that demon. It's terrifying, but we need to find people like Dan Campbell to do it.
And now, Lauren and Jesse, you are in a position like this. And I talked to Ed about this before the show. You are now in a position that before the NFL season was exciting, but you know, we're not going to be very good, whatever. We like our Lions, and it is what it is. Mm-hmm. Now, when you lose games going forward, those are devastating losses. Just like Ed has experienced in the past when Minnesota should be this or should be that. You know, for Brett and Chad and I mean, yeah, we like the NFL season. We love football, but we're of the understanding that things aren't going to be great. Mm-hmm. You guys are the ones now that have to suffer devastating losses.
Our own mental expectations. Yeah. It's funny because I find myself not really knowing what to do when we're winning. Like I've never been in a conversation. I never had to pay attention to seeding. I've never was even a thought. It was like, am I going to be out before December, or are we going to have a few games in December that
might matter?
Yeah,
that might matter. Yes.
It's always been that way. So it's all new territory, and I love it.
Right.
You know, when I talked to Eric about my biggest fear about how this season's going to end, you know, been a Vikings fan for 50 plus years, and I've had my heart ripped out more than once. But probably one of the biggest things that I'm worried about is I know that my guy sitting over there on the far end, that he is just waiting. In fact, he's probably already put his text together. He just hasn't hit send yet. that at my lowest point, when I'm on the edge of the deck, ready to go a half gainer to the ground, Chad's going to send me this smiley face, and that's all I'm going to have to see, and that's going to be it.
Because I'm not very smart. I don't believe Sam Darnold is it. I think it's a fantastic story, but I am so mentally entrenched that he is Sam Darnold and he's a loser and he's going to screw it all up. I can't get it out of my head.
For it. Waiting for the turn.
Yeah, I just believe it's an inevitable train that's going to come down the track and it's going to run Ed's ass over, and then I'm going to be standing over him going.
So here's why I'll start off. The Minnesota Vikings will win if I got 2 points. Now, I've actually got more than 2, but I'm just going to start off with 2, and we'll start going around the horn here. 2 things important. Number 1, when Minnesota has the ball and they're driving down the field, they've got to turn that drive into points and not have the costly turnovers in the red zone that they've been prone to have. Jacksonville Jaguar game to be number 1, but they can get into a bad habit of driving the field and then turning the ball over and having nothing to show for it. And the second point is, and nothing I'd like to see more because I've rode Mike Palco all year over this, is I think when the light shines the brightest, Dan Campbell pumps his chest the most. And when there's going to be 1 or 2 times during the critical point of these games that he could possibly pump his chest and make the wrong decision and totally not know the feel of the game and give away points that in a high-scoring game I anticipate this to be, could jump up to bite him in the ass.
Well, when it comes to Minnesota side, I have 3 points, and I think we've kind of talked about a couple of them. Just in Sam Darnold is a key. That's 1 point. Sam Darnold has to play like the Sam Darnold that we've seen from Minnesota this season so far. That's the first thing. Second one is, I just think the Vikings are healthier. Defensively, and as a team as a whole, they're healthier. They do not have some of the holes that Detroit's going to have to make up for. So that's why I said defense is going to be the key for Detroit. And then, the third one that kind of piggybacks off of that is, right now, if you have to look at the two teams, I do think the Vikings defense is better. And going into the playoffs, that's, those are the recipes you're looking for. Does it mean you're going to win? Nope. But I do think the Vikings defense, as we sit, is better. Flores has been able to do wonders with that side of the ball. They're healthier on that side of the ball. So that's going to put a lot of pressure on Detroit. And it's going to put a lot of pressure on whoever they play in the playoffs. So those are the three keys that I see. Sam Darnold, they are healthier, and their defense as it stands right now is better. So, that's kind of where I see Minnesota will win if, those three things pan out. Brett, you're going to go next because you've just been sitting there so quiet as a Bears fan that, has nothing to really talk about at this point in the year.
You know who Brett's going to talk about? The emergence of our first round draft pick in this year's draft that's coming in as a rookie, making an impact at the end of the season. Who might that be, Brett?
Dallas Turner. Turner.
That dude will come in at the end of the season with fresh legs when, you got to face it, 18 weeks of an NFL season, there's a lot of players that are playing on tired legs. They brought him in at the end, and he's been a nice little pump of fresh air on that defense, and he's been making plays.
I still go back to the head coach's Dan Campbell's decision making with Detroit. I just, and I'm torn because even though I'm a lifelong Bears fan, I'm pulling for both teams. I'm pulling for the Vikings because of the head. And, their fans have suffered, but, I know the Detroit fans have suffered more. So I really think this is going to be an epic game Sunday night, and I hope it is. It could be 45-41. It could, I am worried, though, Dan Campbell's decision-making and the fact that Detroit has a lot of injuries on that side of the ball on defense.
I'll go before the two Detroit guys go. I think it's Sam Darnold being 2024 Sam Darnold and not 2020 Sam Darnold. That's one of the keys. And I think the other key is, can Aaron Jones, can they involve him and get him to produce in this game? Because there's going to be so much attention paid to JJ and paid to Addison. Can he make a difference? Can they get him the ball? And what is he going to do to affect the game? Especially as beat up as that Detroit defense is, they've got to take advantage of that. They got to use all their weapons, and they've got to push Detroit at every angle to try and expose all the backups that they have playing. That's my take.
Jesse, you go first. We'll leave the last one for
Now,
Laura.
remember you two. It says the Vikings will win if. Okay.
Yes. So I think, kind of on the same point as what I said about the Lions, I think if Addison is able, depending on who he has, because I'm pretty sure they're probably going to have, he's going to be lined up with Branch. So I think if he's able to break out, because Detroit, we do play, high amounts of man coverage, so they're going to have their options. So I think my Jordan Addison and, as you said, Sam Darnold, as long as he's able to dissect that man defense, which he should be able to at this level, I think they will win if he's able to do that. But I will say, guys, Alex Anzalone was full participant in the last two practices, the last 2 days. Big cast on his arm. Likely he'll be there. Just saying.
Okay, that's huge.
That's big. At least Jack Campbell's good, but he just doesn't have the coverage skills Anzalone has.
They're due to get several defensive players back into the playoffs, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. They're trickling in
Yep.
periodically. We just got Ife Melifonwu back, so he's he's like a box safety. They've been playing him as pretty much, but so a slow trickle, and then Aiden Hutchinson in the Super Bowl, they say, but I don't even know if I'd want to risk that.
Yeah, I don't see that either.
I save it, man. He's worth more than that. As weird as it is to say, I feel like I'd rather have him healthy next season than him in that one specific game.
Well, if he's at 80%, if you guys make it to the Super Bowl and he's at 80%, considering what your franchise has been through, I'd roll him out there personally, and I imagine Dan Campbell will probably do the same.
Very limited, rotational at best, I would say. Third and
long, yeah.
All right, Lauren, let's hear it, man.
You guys, the Vikings will win if they just dissect our defense, man. Like, they have to capitalize on our injuries. As much as it pains me to say that, and if Dan Campbell's decision making is more in favor for the Vikings, if we can't capitalize on those fourth downs, if we do go for it, or if we don't kick and take the points, I think that could be our downfall. I mean, we do have some injuries, but if they capitalize on taking apart our defense, that's what's going to happen. If our defense can't get any turnovers, it's going to be very scary for us Lions fans.
If Minnesota's offensive line is able to give Sam Darnold the time to go through progressions, I mean, by the time you're double teaming JJ and by the time you're giving Addison, I mean, how many big plays does Naylor come up with, Hawkinson come up with? And now you got Aaron Jones sitting out in the flat waiting for the dump off. If Darnold has the time, I think he can pick them apart.
Oh yeah, and as you said,
or he just hand the ball to Lions players, or
we can do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't complain about that.
What do you think about that, Ed?
And
just Sam Darnold.
One more point. Because we talk about offenses all the time. The one defense is the Viking defense has to get Gibbs shut down. If he's going to sit there and get 8 to 10 yards of crack running the ball, it's going to be a long day for Minnesota, because now you can't come after him on third down and long, because there are no third down and longs. Everything is 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2.
But the best thing about, not the best thing, because David Montgomery obviously is an Iowa State grad, and that's obviously who I root for. But
he's always got to do that, doesn't he?
Well, but I'm just saying,
the Bears hand him over to the Detroit Lions
out there. But Minnesota is able to prepare for Gibbs. When you've got to prepare for Gibbs and Montgomery, two different types of running backs, that is, again, what made Detroit so dangerous in the run game, is because, they're two different kind of running backs that can kill you all different ways. At least, and I hate this for David Montgomery, but at least, teams going forward when it comes to Detroit in the run game, who you're preparing for. Right. So that's, again, what I think the injuries have just made it very difficult.
Yeah.
On Detroit, more difficult on Detroit than the team they're preparing for.
Yeah, having that duo backfield has been so helpful. And having most of the injuries have been on one side of the ball. So when that David Montgomery injury hit, it hit hard. It's like, man, you can't take away, both sides of the ball. We're making up for it. But we have been throwing the ball a lot more. But I'm very excited for this game. Really, the creativity of Brian Flores versus the creativity of Ben Johnson. That is, peak defense, peak offense that are relatively healthy. It's like the clash of the Titans, man. This game is going to be awesome.
And Flores, this could be a audition for the Chicago head coaching job.
A lot of people have been saying that about Ben Johnson. I guess Poles that doesn't like him or something like that.
Well,
of course he don't, because he's good.
Yeah.
Why would he? We're Chicago Bears. We don't want a good coach. Whatever we do, don't do that.
We'll probably end up hiring the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots, whoever that is. This is what it is.
Well, the reason Poles doesn't like him is because he wants to bring in his own GM. some guy that's in Washington now that he used to work with someplace else. And so Poles would not have a job. And so Poles doesn't want to. And then Flores and him played together in college for a year. They're buddies. So it's all in his own self-interest and not the interest of the team.
Would you rather have Brian Flores or Mike Vrabel?
I want neither. I want John Gruden.
Well, here's the deal.
Really?
I want John Gruden over
I
everybody.
take John
I wanted
Gruden,
Bill
not even
Belichick,
take,
but he's gone. I want John Gruden over everybody. Or
I want
Jay
an
Gruden.
offensive guy.
I want a Gruden.
I would take Ben Johnson over Mike Vrabel, even though, do I think Vrabel would bring a certain type of culture, a certain type of culture change that Chicago needs?
Yeah,
probably.
he did a great job in Tennessee changing the culture.
But what I'm saying is,
Hey, he
they
did
made
a
the playoffs.
fantastic job with what he had to work with. Look at
They
what
made
they've
the
done
playoffs
since.
3 out of 6 seasons. How has that worked for the Bears the last 6 seasons? It hasn't.
Yeah.
So I'm saying the culture has to change, very similar to what we were talking about in Detroit. But I think with Caleb Williams and the pieces that we have on offense, we need an offensive guy to be able to unlock that. This defensive track that the Bears have been on since 1985 just has not – knock it off, Ed – that has just not done it for us. We need an offensive guy, and we need an offensive guy that's going to come in and get creative. And obviously Ben Johnson has said that. But, I mean, hell, at this point, I'd be happy with Cliff Kingsbury over some of the defensive guys that they're throwing out.
John Gruden.
I mean,
If you did get Ben Johnson, really, it's all you have to do is fix your line. Like everybody's there, at least for initially. You know, I don't know how.
Right.
I'm not really up to speed with your guys' contracts, but for the most part, you have the weapons for creativity. You just need to protect
right.
them.
So
Correct.
before we go into the pick, we just got 2 picks this week. That's it. Before we go into that, I want to talk about one other topic before we get to that, and it's going to be the other game that we pick. Cincinnati goes into Pittsburgh week 18 with the opportunity of getting in the playoffs. It's a unique situation because Pittsburgh's lost 3 in a row, and somehow they got to figure out how to get right. And I honestly think these last 3 games may have cost Russell Wilson a lot of money. But also in that related to that same game, Kansas City goes to Denver. And if Kansas City lays down and lets Denver win that game, it basically knocks Cincinnati out of the playoffs when Cincinnati has notoriously been a huge thorn in Kansas City's side. Do you think that old coach Andy Reid in the back of his mind is laughing his ass off and just is more than willing to lay down and lose that game to Denver just to keep Joe Burrow out of the playoffs?
100%.
100%. I agree.
Yeah.
I think. And who's offers more of a game? The Bills and the Bengals against Kansas City. They don't want to see them in the playoffs, and Joe Burrow right now is on fire, so he really doesn't want to see him in the playoffs. So if I was him, everybody's resting. Granted, I mean the players on the field are going to try, but you can take the personnel off the field.
Yeah, what Carson Wentz is going to show up? That's the question.
Right. There's
Is
a reason in the
mentally
back.
broken Carson Wentz going to show up, or is potential MVP Carson Wentz going to, or whatever?
I feel like he's good. He gets like beginner's luck every time he plays.
So Cincinnati
Really good.
Bengals going to Pittsburgh, and they beat Pittsburgh, and now it all hinges on that game. Kansas City's got the ball, final drive of the game, and if they kick a field goal, they win that game. And you got Joe Burrow looking at the TV like this, waiting to see if he's going to be in the playoffs. Do you think that enters Coach Gibbs' mind that, damn, you know what? Maybe I just need to lay one on the carpet? Or
I don't think he does that. I don't think he calls the game to lose the game. I don't think that's in his DNA. I don't think he wants to send that message.
Or rather than put
players.
the ball on the carpet, does he call a very conservative plan that just keeps them out of field goal range? And man, they just didn't quite get there to kick that game-winning field goal.
I don't think.
I don't know if that's Andy Reid's DNA.
No.
I don't even know if Andy Reid thinking about all the scenarios about how they do. Unless
something, that's what I'm.
Unless they have a chance to kick a game-winning field goal and win how Kansas City's been winning all year long, unless he instead takes a knee, it would be very difficult for me to believe that Andy Reid, I mean,
Brad,
maybe.
That's a coach talking there. You know, he's all about integrity and stuff. Give us the lowdown as an Alabama fan. What's your take on how that would be handled?
You go for it. I mean, you just go for it. You're not. You just go for it. Plain and simple.
You're telling these guys to go out there when it's cold, the conditions aren't nice, they're getting paid, it's the last game of the season, and the message you're sending to them is, well, we're not even going to try. We're just going to throw this game. You guys are going out there and busting your ass and killing your bodies to try and lose. That's the message we're sending. I think you're looking at this as a fan. You're looking at this as a fan.
I thought we could run the ball up the gut and get 15. I'm sorry, guys. I messed that call up.
Ed, you're looking at that as from a fan of a team that's never won anything in their entire franchise history. So that's what you're doing. You see, the three Bears fans, we're here coming this from the team with the attitude of, we have the second most NFL championships in the history of the league, whereas you have this loser mentality that you've never won a single NFL championship.
Hey, I can say we've been there 4 times.
And you walked away with nothing every time.
Gotta have a ring. Gotta have a ring.
But you guys may have
most
one
Hall of
title,
Famers,
but
most Hall of Famers,
Super Bowl
second
shuffle,
most NFL championships.
Look
Take
at how
your
many
loser
different-
attitude and take that and lose the game with your
Just
loser
because you
attitude.
guys had the Super Bowl shuffle, I don't think that compares with how many. Look at how many viral.
The greatest defense in history. Don't forget it.
Team in history.
All right,
And let's not forget they did the Super Bowl shuffle before the Super Bowl.
Yeah, before the season was over.
That is how cocky the 85 Bears were. Yes.
Hey, we did the white chicks dance before the Super Bowl.
I don't need you guys been in the Super Bowl in 55
how much
years.
of the Vikings practice is dedicated to choreography?
We digress. All right, let's get to the picks.
All right, pick time.
We only got 2, so this will be short and sweet.
Let me get to the picks here. Where are we at? First game on the docket that matters this weekend. Cincinnati at Pittsburgh.
Cincinnati going to 10-6 Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has lost 3 in a row. Russell Wilson, who thought he had a multi-year contract in the bag, suddenly finds him listening to rumbles this week of putting Justin Fields in this game and letting Russell Wilson watch from the sideline.
You hear that, Eric?
Yeah, still does not change my mind.
Eric, go ahead.
Well, hold on. Justin Fields is playing.
Well, there's been a lot of clamor that Pittsburgh needs to let Justin Fields play because Justin Fields brings a whole new aspect to the offense of versatility.
Ah.
I think the
bullshit.
I think the cries in Pittsburgh are starting to get louder and louder, as we talked about at the beginning of the season, where we thought Pittsburgh would be. The defense obviously has saved them in quite a few games from an inept offense. But I think that if it becomes a shootout with Joe Burrow, as Jesse alluded to earlier, shows up and is Joe Burrow trying to make a drive for the playoffs. I mean, does anybody on this panel believe that Pittsburgh can win in a shootout? I don't. So give me Cincinnati.
I'll take Cincy.
Yeah, I think it's going to be unanimous.
Taking Cincy. Yeah.
Come on, Brett, you're a big Russell Wilson guy.
Yeah, you got
not so fast. Not so fast, my friend. Look, I like Joe Burrow, but he did play at LSU. So I hate LSU. And there is no D in Cincinnati, and there is no D in Bengals. Give me Pittsburgh by a field goal.
Oh my God, I got to change it. Hold on.
Oh, look at that. Yeah, Bill's got it. And then Joe Burrow, he's got ice in his veins, man. He lives for
Hey, he's fantastic. Problem is they have no defense. None. None.
That's okay because your boy Russell Wilson has got no offense.
Has no offense. So there we go.
Well, there you go. You got that Russell Wilson candle you burn at night next to your bed. Your Russell
here's good night, Russell. Oh, good night. Russell.
Here's another issue as we talk about Justin Fields versus Russell Wilson. What else have we seen happening with Pittsburgh the last couple weeks? None other than another diva receiver starting to rear their ugly head and cause problems in the organization.
Hey, I know
George Pickens took the bait this last week, and in the locker room was asked a question about whether he agreed with the fact that he and Russell Wilson weren't on the same page, and he kept grilling the reporter till the reporter admitted that was Russell Wilson that made that statement.
Hey, and then it went like this.
And he just covered his face and wouldn't answer. And I thought, George Pickens is going to be just another in a long line of diva receivers.
Hey, what did I tell you guys about George?
Organization,
yep.
and they're going to implode at the wrong time. I'm taking Cincinnati.
George Pickens is from Hoover, Alabama, 45 minutes from my house. Big-time receiver as a sophomore in high school. Nick Saban and him met once, and it was basically he really wasn't even offered. George is a walking attitude problem. They had numerous issues with him at Georgia. Kirby did in Athens, and he was this close on 2 separate occasions getting kicked off the team totally. George is definitely, when you think of a diva, troublemaking, Antonio Brown-like receiver, he is it. You're absolutely right.
Katie, hold on here now.
You can see it in his play.
Hold on
right.
here now. I got to take this down a second. I got to put this up because this requires instant attention. We got a listener here that wants an answer, Brett. And I'm going to give you first shot, Bings. This is going to be geared towards you.
Oh, he's cracking his neck. Get ready.
I'll donate 2 tickets sitting in the Beer Snake in D.C. for the opening weekend game against Birmingham if we come out to the game.
Oh, that's a good little trip, isn't it? Especially for a redneck from Alabama, man. Yeah, that would be a flight. If it's longer than a 30-minute drive, I get on a plane. I'm just saying.
The only problem is I think we could definitely come up with 2 people that would go to that DC game.
Yeah.
The only problem is when it comes to the Beer Snake section, unless you're dressed in DC garb and you are an avid DC fan, you can't even sniff the Beer Snake section. So I don't know that if we come out there that they would let us sit in that section.
Right.
Like a hawk's nest in Seattle kind of a situation.
Yeah, definitely not with my Stallions gear on for what.
And look at this. They're even going to be donated to the show.
Wow. I'm sure we can make that happen. some kind of way.
Well, we'll be in touch with that. We will. We got 3 months to make that happen. We got 3 months to make that happen. Okay, Eric, bring up the next game.
All right.
Oh, wait a minute.
These guys didn't
Wait a minute. We didn't get Jesse and Lauren's pick here.
Come on.
Oh, yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Yeah. They both took Cincinnati. Where have you been?
Oh, that's right. They said across the board sweep, didn't they?
It's just afternoon. Have you guys been drinking already? What is going on here?
Yeah, it's on the docket, though.
Yeah, it is. Get games coming up, but I've already had my liter of coffee, so I'll be ready to go.
Okay, the game that matters. Minnesota 14-2, right now sitting as the number 5 seed in the NFC travels to the number 1 seeded division leading Detroit Lions at 14-2. Detroit is a 2.5 point favorite at home, which out of that 14-2 records, both their losses have come at home. So is it a true home field advantage? Who wants to go first?
Let's let the Detroit guys go first.
Okay.
Let's make it easy first.
All right. You want to go first, Lauren?
Yeah, I'm just going to say Detroit by a field goal. Jake Bates is going to win it for us.
Jesse, where are you at on this?
I'm thinking the Lions. It's going to be close. As I said, I'm predicting a shootout. I mean, I don't know what the over is. To say on here? No, I don't know what the over is.
2.5. Oh, I don't know.
The
what
over
is
is probably
yet.
like 130.
Yeah, it's got to be high. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be pushing 80, right?
I would think.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking the Lions. I think it's going to be a shootout. I don't know. I'm assuming both offenses are going to be. I mean, just look at the game last week against a battered San Francisco with the Detroit. I think it's going to be high scoring game, but I think Detroit pulls it out if Dan Gamble can keep them tucked in his pants for the game.
Man, look at Mike. Lions by 3. Game will be tied late in the game. Darnold will throw across his body, throw an INT to Kirby Joseph, or Bates will kick the field goal. You know what?
That's a 2009 stab, Brett Favre stab.
Yeah. Against New Orleans, we all remember watching that.
Cross body.
But here's where I can tell that the Lions fans are in a different mindset. When we would pick games earlier on, the Bears games would come up, and we'd have them if they were close, especially early in the season. I was always the gank pick, man. I'm like, I gotta get away. I'm gonna pick whoever we're playing. Like, I can't. I just feel like
there's no way that's the over and under.
Over under is only 56.5.
Bet the house on the over.
There's no way.
Like Vegas is begging you to take the over.
That's only 32-24.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that'll be it, but I can't really see that. But okay. Who you got, Brett?
To be the man, you've got to beat the man. Give me the Vikings.
Man, Dan Campbell.
Give me the Vikings.
Chad?
Who do I believe will screw up more?
Okay, before you get going here, let's say this. We want an honest prediction and not just something is going to turn the knife in my side.
I'm trying to, but you interrupt me.
I just want to set the stage here for this eye-opening evaluation you're about to put out.
Okay,
here.
Back to what I was saying when I was rudely interrupted. Who do I believe will screw this up more? Dan Campbell in his inability to restrain himself, or Sam Darnold coming out on the field with a Jets helmet on? I think Sam Darnold will come out with a Jets helmet on and screw it up, and I think the Lions win.
Sam Darnold's first game was against the Lions, and he beat us. His first pass was an interception, and he still beat us in that game. So I don't like that much.
Okay.
Ed, are you homering it, or what are you going to do, Ed? Are you ganking it and going with Detroit?
And I just want you guys to know this too. As I told you, it doesn't surprise me how Chad picks his game. You notice here in this very important game when we're coming down towards the end of the season with our picks, Eric wants me to go first because
I went first with Cincinnati and Pittsburgh.
I have a 2-game lead on him in the pick segment, and he knows that the only way he can catch me is he's got to go opposite me.
Do you see how this works, guys?
Who I'm picking?
Who went first?
This is a family squabble. Their uncle and
it seems like we're all related here.
All year long.
And big dog of picks so far this year, I have earned the right to go last.
Oh. So here's the deal. I go first with Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, and I didn't fight it one bit. When I ask him on Minnesota and Detroit, he says he gives you this big, oh, look at what he does. I didn't argue when he said, Eric, what do you got? I said, well, here's my breakdown.
A bunch of women in hair salon.
You guys
Yeah.
don't want to listen to you guys and all your petty quibbling. Come on.
But I tell you what, Ed, just because you're acting like a huge big dog baby right now, I will pick first.
Colin Karen.
Yeah. Okay, Karen, I'll make my pick before you. And I'll give you the reasoning behind my pick. Whenever I look at these games, I looked at the Cincinnati and Pittsburgh game the same way that I'm looking at this game. Who has the better quarterback? That's how a lot of times I pick these big games is who has the better quarterback and who do I trust? You know, would I be just as happy for Minnesota to win the game? Yeah. But in this situation, I'm going with Detroit because I think in this situation, they have the better quarterback. Does that mean Sam Darnold's bad? No. It means that I'm going to go with the better quarterback and I'm picking Detroit. There, Ed. Are you happy? Are you happy that I went before you?
Answer me this. Did you make that pick? Did you make that pick organically just now? Or would you have picked different if you'd have heard what I said first?
No, I was picking Detroit simply because of
who do you got, Brett?
Karen.
Oh, you took Minnesota. You took Minnesota.
Yep. We're waiting on you still.
Waiting on you, Karen.
Eric,
all you, Karen.
Detroit. I, on the other hand, am going to go with.
What is this?
Do I got time to go to the
People
can?
have other things they need to be doing right now, but everybody is waiting for me to say who I'm going with.
Are you ganking it? Or are you going to go with the pick? Jeez,
Oh,
come
he's
on.
trying to pull up. He's trying to pull up.
He's to pull up his horn.
Yeah, he's pulling up. We all know what he's doing.
I think when push comes to shove, that you look at two offenses that I think are going to be able to put points on the board, but as you guys alluded to earlier in the show, who is better equipped to play defense for this game? And I just think that in a game that can be decided by one or two plays, which defense are you going to put your faith in that's going to be able to come up with one or two big plays to save a game? And that's the only reason why I'm taking Minnesota in this game, because I think the offenses are going to pretty much move the ball at will. But I go with Minnesota.
Jeez, all of that.
And wouldn't it just be justice? Wouldn't it be, as much as I love the UFL and as much as although I love Bates,
getting a pick out of him is like trying to get medicine to a 3-year-old.
Because he has been a thorn in my side. Wouldn't it only be justice to the game to come down to where they need a field goal to win and Bates pulls the double doink?
Oh, knock it off.
Double
really? Now I don't want Minnesota. I hope Minnesota gets freaking killed.
Boat race them, boys.
You talked about, I'm 100% in on Detroit, guys, because he couldn't help himself. He talks about how Chad always digs on him with Minnesota, and then he throws that in there. Keeping receipts. Keep the receipts.
So anyway, guys, I want to give you another opportunity to plug your new podcast, UFL podcast show. And again, we'll help you guys out in any way we can. And I'm in the process of I got to talk with the league next week. We got a phone scheduled, and I'm going to find out some important dates from them on credentials and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So I'll forward that on to you guys and see if we can get you guys credentialed in Michigan. I think it'd be a great opportunity to grow your podcast and just another way to grow the league. So why don't you guys give us your plug before we let you go? When you're going to be on, that kind of thing.
Right now, we're going to meet this afternoon and probably plan another video about returning players to the Panthers and what new players we have coming up, because we just got a great spreadsheet from Thorne over at Pro Football Newsroom. there's so much information on that. But you can check us out on YouTube at My Panther Pride. I also have a Facebook group called My Panther Pride. You're more than welcome to join us. We always have
M.I. Panther Pride. My Panther.
M.I. Yep.
My
M.I.
Panther Pride. Needed.
But yeah, that's it. I mean, we're kind of the same setup. We just get on, just some some buddies that want to talk about the league, get the information out there, and trying to spread it. So pretty laid back, nothing too serious.
Something tells me that the week that Michigan and St. Louis plays, that we could have a pretty interesting interaction.
So that's what the page looks like on the phone, correct, boys?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah, I will be joining the group. Joined. All right.
Well, thanks again, guys, and it was great having you guys on and getting to meet you for the first time, and we'll have to introduce you guys to Mike Palco if you don't know him already, because he's kind of like Lauren. He's got Michigan Panther stuff as a backdrop at all times, so he's as big a Michigan homer as you guys are, I'm sure. So.
Okay. Yeah, it was. Thank you for having us. It was great to meet all you guys. I hope we can work.
We appreciate it.
Again more.
Yeah. Good meeting you guys.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later.
Take care, guys.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, guys. Any parting shots?
Yeah.
We're having our bottom line's longest podcast to date today.
Well,
I would like to think we filled it with some pretty good stuff.
We had some special guests, so sometimes it runs a little bit longer. But the double doink thing, I'm never going to forgive you for that, Ed. You had to throw that in there. I'm just not.
I will have, but just as a caveat to that, Eric, in the double doink game, I was actually pulling for Chicago that game.
But yeah, I get that. That's fine. But you had to bring it up when we're at kind of
that
our
ranks
lowest
right
point.
up there. That ranks right up there with Minnesota against Seattle, when Minnesota had a 19-yard field goal to win that game, and they were playing outdoors at Minnesota's college stadium,
and everybody realized nobody cares.
and he goes to kick a 19-yard field goal and misses it to the left by more than the 19 yards that it took to go perfectly straight. He missed it 19 yards.
And then we all realized no one cares. And then we got a Western Union telegram that said no one cares.
The Defense Department are going to inform you the Minnesota Vikings are gone.
Give us our weekly. Oh, I will say we got a short turnaround, because our normal show will be back to Wednesday nights at 8:00. So we're going to be turning around here in a few days and doing it all over again. But so catch us, the Bottom Line Show.
Back in a regular slot after the holidays.
And Brett, why don't you take it away and do our normal thanks to all those pages that are letting us post our show.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody. We've got so many that's allowed us to post. Again, we're on Facebook, Instagram, X. Check us out on YouTube. You subscribe to us, notified every time we go live, go online or whatever. It's free. Thank the Southeastern Conference group, NFL fans, NFL football, St. Louis Battlehawks tailgate, UFL America, XFL conference, United Football League group. Oh, that's our group. Thank everyone for letting us share our show in your group. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. And you're all welcome to come on with us, just like our guest today, and spread the word about what your group's all about, what you do, and all that fun stuff. Thanks again.
We are the Bottom Line Podcast. And again, if there's any other podcasts out there related to the UFL, we are here to help in any way we can. So if there's anybody out there in any of the cities that want to widen their viewership, if we can help you in any way, we will certainly do that. With that said, Enjoy another weekend of football, and we will see you again Wednesday night.
Peace out.
And that's the bottom line.